Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is James Duff Merritt, and I want to welcome you to the K-Sam Speaks podcast. Now, this is a podcast where topics involving law enforcement are discussed while offering real and transparent answers. Now, we are not trying to change the world, but just change one heart at a time. Here's your host, K-Sam.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank y'all for joining me again yet for another episode of the K-Sam Speaks podcast. Man, today we're going to take a trip down to Chicago, baby. We're going to Chi-Town. We're going to talk about an incident that involved a young man by the name of Dexter Reed. Dexter Reed, who was gunned down and killed by law enforcement. That took place back on May 21st, 2024. But before we get started, I got to start every episode talking about some statistics. But for this episode, we ain't going to dive too much into statistics, but I just want to give y'all some disturbing information, at least that I always find disturbing on my behalf. But, we all coming on the same right here. So, but let's talk about the number of officers that's being shot daily right here. So 7 officers, according to the report that I read like 2 days ago, 7 officers were shot in the last 2 days. 7 in 2 days. So again, we see how these numbers are steadily increasing daily now, not just weekly and monthly, yearly. We talking daily. Like these numbers are constantly increasing daily. Wow. Just in the week of April 14th through the 21st, there were 9 officers that died in the line of duty. 9 officers that died in the line of duty. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we have to figure out a way to combat this, whether it's the government, the president, city officials, but it's happening way too often nowadays, way too often. And should be very concerning for everybody, not just law enforcement, but for everybody. Why we not protesting the streets about police getting killed like we would protest for George Floyd? George Floyd didn't do nothing for the country. George Floyd didn't do nothing for your average citizens. But people went to war behind George Floyd. Rightfully so. His incident looked worse than what it turned out to be. It was easier to blame the cop for that incident, but even though it wasn't, we ain't much gonna dive into George Floyd again. Let's leave that in the past. Let's see that where is that. So diving into my numbers of suicides, I ain't gonna bring y'all numbers, but I want to touch on this specific suicide by a law enforcement officer, sheriff's deputy. That touched me real personal because I actually knew this guy. I played softball with this guy a couple times when I was back in Louisiana. So this one actually touched me deep. It hurts to see that somebody that I personally knew take their life away. So I want to take this moment and give some condolences and pay my respects. Actually, today is his service. Today at the time of this recording, to Deputy Eloy Conejo, if I pronounced that right, a little Spanish. Conejo Jr. Deputy Eloy was employed with the Lafayette Sheriff's Department in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I think like last week or maybe a week and a half ago, he was a school resource officer, and Deputy Eloy took his own life. Yeah. So like I said, man, it this one hurts a little bit deeper because it's personal, I'm just even kind of getting the chills just talking about it. But yeah, man, great guy. I know we always talk about you never know what people going through, what they're struggling with. Always check in on people. But here's what hurts the most when first responders commit suicide. We have access to all resources. We know all resources. we know how to find resources. We give information to people all the time. And yet we still lose our own battles. That's what hurts me, is that we help everybody else and then we lose our own battles, man. And statistics show that we're more than likely to lose our life in our own hands than the hands of a suspect or somebody on the streets. So prayers for his family and his wife and kid that he leaves behind. All his co-workers at the Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Department and officers in the area that worked with him. And Eloy, that's a big loss right there, man. The softball community, just across the country where we played, teams from across the country, out of the country and stuff like that, man. So yeah, suicide. It continues to happen. And like we need, man, Alan Cormier from With You, the With You Foundation, he reached out and we talked about it. And I was like, bro, it's just, it hurts and it's aggravating because we know what we could do to help ourselves and we don't take advantage of it. So, man, love on y'all people. The life happens quick. So while we kind of talking about how life happens quick, Officer Nancy Dominguez with the Princeton, Texas Police Department, 32 years old, tragically killed in an off-duty vehicle accident where she was on her way to work. It was last Saturday. Yeah, last Saturday. So I'm sure she was, preparing to go work another night shift and didn't even make it to work. The list goes on. Like I just said, 9 officers died in the line of duty just in a matter of a week. So I can sit here and say RIPs and just go down the list and make this a memorial podcast episode. But I just like to spotlight this because it's not being talked about enough by everybody else that's outside of law enforcement. So I just want to spotlight that real quick. But let's dive into the episode of Dexter Reed. So here we go. I'm going to set it up for y'all and kind of give y'all the synopsis of what happened. But as always, I'll post the video. They have the YouTube body cam link that's out there. So I'll post that for y'all. If y'all want to watch the body cam video, just be mindful. That is very disturbing. But I think we all should watch it. And you be the Monday morning quarterback and see what your thoughts about this is. So here we go. March 21st, 2024, Dexter Reed, 26-year-old black male, was stopped by Chicago Police Department tactical team. So their tactical team, at least this specific unit, they had 5 people in the police explorer, 5 people. And they stopped him over a seatbelt violation. They get out, they address him. He rolls up the window, so instantly non-compliant. And then stuff goes south from there. Dexter Reed ended up firing the first shot. Let's notate that. He fired the first shot and struck an officer in the forearm wrist area who was on the passenger side of his car. After he fired the first shot, the police responded with a total of 96 bullets in 41 seconds. Let's notate point number 2. 96 bullets in 4 seconds by 4 officers. Reed was ultimately shot in the chest, shoulder, back, thighs, knees, legs, and butt. Shot all over, essentially. And of course, they done a toxicological report. And it showed he had marijuana in his system. Neither here nor there. I don't care about that. But that's something they notated. And then Reed also exited the vehicle during the shootout. I don't know what he was trying to do, try to run away or whatever. So let's break this down. Let's break this down. But first, let me stop there before we get too far. Again, it's tragic. A mother is grieving, which you can find that all over the social media, TikToks, news reports. Family is grieving, sisters are grieving, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters are grieving. Somebody lost their life, rightfully so. So let's not take away the human aspect of people that actually grieve. Somebody actually made a good point. The way families grieve when they lose a loved one um, to gunfire involving police. The family also wants police to understand that they grieve the same way law enforcement grieve when we lose an officer in the line of duty. I like that. Man. Brother Ryan Tillman, man, I'm reading his book called Happy Eyes, and that's one of his key points is empathy. And I highlighted some stuff in the book, and I don't have it handy with me right now, but I want to spotlight some stuff from that book at a later episode. I'm gonna do a review on the book because Brother Tillman got some good nuggets in there. But yeah, that makes that's a valid point. So condolences to his family, the mother, and I hope they find the peace and closure, whatever they're trying to find, even after watching the body cam video that the whole world is watching. So let's dive into my issues that I have with this story of what they're trying to push. And when I say they, I'm talking about the family, because if you don't know what I'm talking about, then that's what I mean of they trying to push the narrative that doesn't fit the agenda. And with the body cam video, after you watch this body cam video, then you like, what are y'all talking about? Like, how can y'all sit in front of all these news cameras and say the things that I'm about to tell y'all that they said? But again, we have to understand that it's a grieving family, and of course, nobody thinks their son deserves to be killed. And people always say that, like for this example, he did not deserve to die over a seatbelt violation. Very valid. But let's not forget the reason why he was shot and killed isn't because he was wearing a seatbelt. That was the reason why he was contacted by the police. The reason why he was shot and killed is because he fired the first shot at law enforcement. Again, so many times we talk about accountability on law enforcement. Everybody wants law enforcement to be held accountable, but not one person is holding Mr. Dexter Reed accountable for his actions. Whether or not it was like, well, you should be riding with your seatbelt on. Cool. We could go that route. Or why are you shooting at when you shoot at the police or when you present a weapon at the police, technically anybody, but more so at the police, what do you expect to happen? Like, I feel like now you present the threat like you trying to take away my life. So now I got to handle myself accordingly. So accountability is what we always talk about in this country. But we like to pick and choose who we want to hold accountable in certain situations. I done an episode on that when I just was on audio, on police, on accountability in general. And it just doesn't start and stop with law enforcement, lawyers, judges, district attorneys, state prosecutors. Like, it goes on and on of where accountability lies. It goes on and on. But we always just like to pinpoint accountability at law enforcement. So here we go. Let's dive into their attorney comments. Their attorney stated, I have my little notes right here. Their attorney stated that one, the stop was unnecessary. The stop was unconstitutional. The stop was pretextual. And he questioned, why are tactical officers making that type of stop? Why are these officers making these type of stops for a seatbelt? Now, I won't go into their tactical unit, their team, because I don't know what's their roles and responsibilities and stuff, but just kind of set up this picture until you watch the video, if you do want to watch the video. But these officers, plain clothes, hoodie, pants, with a outer carrier vest that says police. So, they're in an unmarked car with police lights and stuff like that. So it wasn't no secret that you were being contacted by the police. And then some people may say, well, why so many police to one person? That's a whole different conversation that we could have at a later episode. I'm gonna jot that down and we could do I'll do an episode just talking about that, because people feel that it should be one person, one cop. And anything more when a person being dealt with by police, once they are outnumbered, people have issues with that. But there's a reason behind that. We ain't gonna go in that right now. So let's dive into the attorney also mentioned that the stop was promoting violence and that it was militarized policing. So let's go back to the first comment where he said that the stop was unnecessary. Ladies and gentlemen, I started this podcast to educate you on issues involving law enforcement. But you also need to educate yourself. I was talking to one of my friends on her TikTok live about just all the stuff that's considered probable cause for police to contact you on a traffic stop. It's free 99. Google whatever state you live in, Google Texas traffic laws, and you'll see all the stuff that you could get stopped for that's probable cause. Some of it may be petty, but it's probable cause. It gives me the right to stop you. Failure to signal, that's the reason to stop you. Not wearing your seatbelt. Louisiana has a whole campaign, click it or ticket. When I worked in Louisiana, we had a grant that we done with the state where all I done was rode around and look for people not wearing their seatbelt and write tickets. So it's a valid stop. It's a reasonable stop. It's a probable cause stop. So for him to say that the stop was unnecessary, it's only unnecessary because of what happened with your family, with your client's loved one. Unconstitutional. He just said it was unconstitutional, but never stated why it was unconstitutional. Pretextual. You don't know that stop was pretextual because the body cam just shows them stopping him. No conversation came out about if they was watching him, if he was on their radar, if they were looking for him. So even if it was a pretextual stop, they had a valid violation of no seatbelt. I even saw a report that said, well, based off of the dark tint of his windows, the position of the officer's vehicle to his, and all kind of stuff, how is it possible to where they could see a window tint violation? And then the attorney makes the comment of they are militarized policing. I know in my 33 years of living in the United States of America, I never been policed by the military. So how can he validly say that they are doing militarized policing? Name a time where the military came out and done civilian law enforcement. Now, military policing is totally different from your civilian law enforcement. And if y'all want, I could bring on a special guest who is a military police officer for many years during his military time. And it's different. It's different. So for him to say that, and here's why people always want to say that, because they feel that police shouldn't be equipped with long guns, rifles, that police shouldn't have the armored vehicles, also known as the Bearcats, and that we shouldn't have all this stuff to protect ourselves. People, newsflash, criminals on the streets have way better guns than what we have in law enforcement. Way better guns. AK-47s with banana clips. You know, they have these Glock handguns with switches on it that takes a semi-automatic handgun to automatic handgun. I saw a video that we had to watch for training. They had a switch on this gun, on this Glock handgun, and it shot 30-something bullets in a matter of seconds. So these criminals have better guns than we have, but we are militarized. Come on, sir. Miss me with that one. So this family is held press conferences. They try to do protests and stuff like that because they trying to push a narrative that's just not there. Not there for this one. Yeah, you know, that's their loved one where they felt that it was a senseless killing. Right. But Dexter Reed is deceased today for his own actions that only he could be held accountable for. He shot an officer first. And I mean, I don't know what the family was expecting from that situation. Let's dive into some comments that the mom said. The mom quoted said that these young kids, they don't do nothing all the time. That they just be out here trying to live life, but they don't be doing nothing all the time. You know, Dexter Reed got caught doing something this time, but not all the time. They don't be doing nothing, but the police is be out here just harassing these kids for nothing. You know, and then, of course, they try to paint Dexter as he was a good kid. He was just riding around in his car. He just got his car. She even went to the point of saying that he would cook her breakfast, and when she was tired, he was telling her to exercise, and he bought her a Peloton bike. And I don't know Dexter Reed, so I'm not even go try to discredit him on being a good person, being a good kid. Look, stuff happens, people make choices, and now you just got to deal with the choices that you made. And that's what happened with Dexter Reed. He decided to not comply. He decided to also shoot at the police first, and that's why he was handed 96 rounds in a matter of 41 minutes. 41 seconds, I'm sorry. But nobody is holding Dexter accountable on his family side. Look, check this out. His uncle even stated that if they didn't stop his nephew, he'll be alive today. Let me correct that statement for you. If Dexter Reed was buckled up, he'll be alive today. Oh, let me say it another way for you. If Dexter Reed would have complied once he was stopped lawfully, he'll be alive today. Oh, one more time for you. If Dexter Reed wouldn't have pulled out a gun and shot law enforcement first, he'll be alive today. And it's just that simple. I know we hear time and time again, like, oh, comply. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just that simple. It's just that simple. Comply. I want to go home and then to my work shift. I want to make sure you able to go out and continue whatever you was doing before I came into contact with you. Whether you call 911 or you call for my help, or whether I stopped you on a traffic violation. We all have the same common goal. We just all want to be safe and go home. I'm not out here trying to catch a body like people say, you know, cops out here doing. Like we just out here like I don't wake up in the morning and be like, yep, today's a good one to go get me a body. No, that's ridiculous, man. So this family is trying to push this narrative of racial injustice. Not on this one. The proof is there. Dexter Reed caused his own consequences. Dexter Reed caused his own consequences. Um, and the video shows it. The video shows it. Like it doesn't get any clearer than that. So then reports comes out that says one officer fired at least 50 times at Mr. Reed, uh, including 3 times while he was motionless on the ground. One officer reloaded his weapon twice, while 3 other officers reloaded their weapons once. You could make an argument behind that, but if you watch the video, you'll know exactly what officer fired that many times. And that officer just had the best position. And Dexter Reed shot off 11 rounds. 11. Now, granted, 11 versus 96 is still a large margin, but still, it wasn't like he just shot one time and was like willing to give up and they just kept shooting him. No, he shot 11 times at law enforcement. Then he tried to drive away, but he got pinned in and stuff. So of course, Reed's family filed a civil lawsuit against the city and Chicago police, accusing officers of violating his civil rights with brutally violence and again the militarized policing tactics during the improper traffic stop. You even go watch the mom's interviews. So she done a press conference and she done an interview. And all over social media, people is questioning her genuality of her interview. And I'll let y'all go watch that. Just type in Dexter Reed's mom press conference, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And it's kind of like okay, understand again, that's a grieving mother, but I would honestly respect her more and say, look, yes, it sucks that this happened to my son. I would have never, and I don't wish that on nobody, but I would have respected her more if she would have took some accountability and said, look, I sorry to the officer who got shot. Clearly my son tried to kill you. It easily could have been a headshot, but they questioned her genuality of her interview, and I need y'all to go watch this. So I'm gonna have to get with. So we got a couple officers that work that came from Chicago PD, and I need to do an episode on that because, ladies and gentlemen, when I tell y'all how wild Chicago PD is, and like the way they handle stuff with like the administrative side of things, like this admin leave and stuff, it'll blow y'all mind. But Chicago has something that's called, I'm gonna use the acronym is COPA, so I'm gonna say COPA, but it stands for the Civilian Office of Police Accountability. And when I get with my homeboy, I'm gonna get him to give me a little bit more on how that civilian office works. But I'm gonna hold my comments on that before I talk bad about it, because I really don't know. But my first reaction I want to say is I don't like that you have civilians trying to or having the authority to judge an incident on law enforcement officers when more than likely they haven't been in the shoes of law enforcement officers. It's one thing to say what you gonna do if you get shot at or if you get XYZ. It's a whole other thing when that moment holds true. I'll give y'all a prime example. I'm gonna start wrapping this thing up. When I was in high school, I worked at Sonic. So on the night shift, there was a bunch of high school students working. Well, McDonald's was a couple blocks away. McDonald's got robbed maybe once or twice or whatever. So me and my boys that work in the kitchen talking cash money talk. Yeah, let somebody come in here and try to rob us. We go do this. We go throw hot grease on them. We go do X, Y, Z. We go do all this stuff. Yeah, saw that day came true. That day came true. And I was so scared. We all ran out the back door, left the little car hop in the front by herself. But I was so scared. I got in my car and I left the property. I said, boy, forget this job. Boy, no, sir. But that's just a prime example of, yeah, it's easy to say what you will do when you're not in the situation, when you're in a calm, sterile environment. But when that day come knocking at your door, how you gonna respond? So that's the thing with law enforcement, ladies and gentlemen. It's easy for us to get criticized, but like we are faced with life and death situations, where we got to react quickly. We got to respond quickly. We don't have time to sit down and analyze our thoughts and strategies and stuff like that. But again, I waited a little bit to do this episode, and I'm sure you can find many podcasts and TikTok videos, and Instagram videos where people talk about this. But I purposely waited this long to talk about it because I just was curious to see if it was gonna gain some traction, where it's gonna be all over CNN News and all over social media and stuff. And here we are, the end of April, and still nothing, because it's hard to argue something when you have a clear-cut video like this incident shows. But I mean, I don't know. It's really hard to agree with what the family is doing because of the video. And here's the sad part. They filed this lawsuit, and more than likely they go get some pocket change. More than likely they go get some pocket change. And that's what constantly happens in these incidences. So that'll be wrapping it up for this episode of K Sam Speaks, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get out of here, y'all go to Carsoners. Go to Carsoners. My people across the country, Google Carsoners, Louisiana, and tap in online and get y'all some goods, man. Get y'all some products. But before I leave, I want to leave y'all with today's word of the day. And it says, when you're confident in yourself, no one's opinion, rejection, or behavior can mess with you. When you're confident in yourself, no one's opinion, rejection, or behavior can mess with you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all for tuning in again. Make sure y'all like and hit that subscribe button. Peace.